Have you ever felt?
Are you listening? Damn.
Okay, Curtis and I got thinking of a very simple yet effective dry fly that you can fish either as an attractor or as a hatch matching fly. And I think it's hard to beat the good old X-Caddis. Now, this fly, keep in mind that if you tied this in different colors, you could match a mayfly with it. You could match a bigger stonefly just by changing sizes and colors. In this instance, we're going to tie a tan one, probably the most common color of caddis out there. Anyway, I've got a Daiichi 1180 hook in the vise, size 14. I'm going to tie with black Danville's 70 denier. If you've got tan thread, more power to you. It's probably not going to make a ton of difference, so we're just going to use black on this one. So to dress the hook, I'm going to start with my thread behind the hook and come into the hook and start wrapping with the hand that the bobbin's in, forward and then back, and that locks your thread in place. And you can trim off this excess. So I'm going to lay down a base layer, and the tail of this is going to be a synthetic fiber called sparkle emerger yarn. It's designed for a fly called a sparkle emerger, but basically any fly that has a trailing shuck, this stuff is really good with. So you can see it's kind of just a sparkly synthetic yarn, and if you pull it apart enough, you'll see that it's in little mini hanks. So I'm going to cut one of those off. So you can see this is about how much I'm working with, and I'm going to pull out about a third of that and get rid of it. So I'm going to use about 2/3 of this hank of sparkle emerger yarn, and I will actually take it and trim the ends flush, if I can do that. And then just tie that in right where the tail would be, and then just tie up the hook shank and tie those butt ends down. And then bring my thread right back so I can wrap a dubbing body. So now the shuck on this fly is about the length of the body. So you can either do it one or two ways. You can take the thread over here like this and trim it just like that, or you can just kind of eyeball it. As you tie more of these, you'll kind of get the feel of it. So you can either cut it straight across, or you can come in here and pick out some of these fibers to kind of give it a more buggy effect, but you know, either way will work just fine. Also, you see I have a few little fibers hanging down here, and that's not going to matter because we're going to cover that up with dubbing. The dubbing that we're going to use for this is Nature Spirit Fine Natural Dubbing, and the color is Callibaetis that we're going to use. Now, Callibaetis is a little tan colored mayfly. It's a little bit mottled in color. And this dubbing is kind of a tan with a darker color mixed in, so it's a little bit mottled. And we're just going to dub some onto our thread. And as you dub this on, it's important not to go two directions when you dub the dubbing on. Just dub it one direction, put a lot of pressure on it, and it should stay on your thread just fine. It'll be a technique that you've got to work on to get really good and efficient at it. So I'm just going to start wrapping forward, and I'm going to build just a slight taper as I get closer to the head, and I'm actually going to put a little bit more dubbing on that. So I have very little space left on the fly, and that's where I'm going to tie my wing in. Now, elk hair or deer hair can be very intimidating, and it shouldn't intimidate you. It's really not a difficult material to work with if you just follow a few basic instructions. So this is Nature Spirit Select Cow Elk Hair, and the first key to using hair in general is to buy quality hair. You know, we could go on and on and on about finding good quality hair and some of the tips to look for. One of the things that we've noticed is basically all of the hair that we've gotten from Nature's Spirit is top of the line because of their selection process. So when you cut some hair out, you just kind of take a clump of it and you just trim that off. And I'll show you about the amount that we'd want for a size 14 fly. So as you can see, I've got, I don't know, a little bit thinner than a pencil width of thread or of hair. And as you can see, I've got all this fluffy fiber underneath. That's what the deer or elk uses to stay warm. And it's kind of an insulative layer, but it doesn't help with the flotation of the fly. So what you want to do is take a little comb or with your fingers, pull it out. The comb works really well because you can just stick it in here and it pulls all of that material out. So now you're left with very clean fibers. You can use the metal comb. We also have this plastic Sonfo comb. Works the same way. Anyway, the other thing is this is a hair stacker. This is a Peak hair stacker. It's made out of raw aluminum so that there's not a lot of static. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the tips of my hair and put the tips into this hair stacker. And what you're going to do is now just tap that lightly on the table. And because I want the tips to be facing back, I'm going to tilt my stacker this way. And now you can see the hairs are all stacked, you know, pretty even for the most part. Grab all those with one grab. And you can see I've got some little fibers in there that are broken. Not going to be the end of the world if those end up in the fly. So here's where the fun begins. Take your fingers and I like the wing to extend just a little tiny past the body like this. And I'm going to take and hold those with my left hand, and I'm going to wrap around the fibers twice, or the hair twice, and just pull straight down. Okay, I have not let go of these fibers yet because if I do, they'll want to twist around the hook. Then maybe add one or two more wraps. Now release the tension that you have on your thread, just let your bobbin hang. And now my hair is set. What I do now to advance my thread up to the eye is now I'm going to pull a little bit of these fibers back, make a wrap of thread through there, grab a few more of those, make another wrap, grab a few more, another wrap until I'm all the way up to the hook eye, and then I can build up a little bit of a head just to kind of create a lockdown point for those hairs. Now I'm going to take the whip finisher. And this is kind of a funky technique too, because I'm going to take the hair and hold those out of the way with the hand that the bobbin's in now and create a whip finish right under that wing. Alright, so now you can see there are the butts, there's the good hair. So I'm just going to pull those straight up and cut those off. Just like that. And that's the X-Caddis. Very simple pattern. I like to fish this with Loon Loxa floatant. That keeps it really floating high all day long. It's a super durable pattern as well, because there's not a lot of stuff on here that can, you know, fall off or break. Anyway, another pattern that we tie is an elk hair caddis or the Palomino caddis, and you can see links to those after the video.